You know, the Wallingford of my youth was farms. So barns like this were all over Wallingford. Aren't too many left. There's a few farms still in Wallingford, um, but they were everywhere. The Gerke Farm, the Watrous Farm, the Boulderrocky, Wallace Farm on Parker Farms Road. Um, and that's where I grew up. I used to work the farm. So Mr. Watrous would give me $1 an hour to pull weeds, and we worked in the barn. So there are barns like this all over Wallingford. Not so much anymore. They're all dying. They're all being sold off for development, for new houses. People got to live somewhere. But yeah, it's a terrific memory when you're in farmland. Now, this used to be the Barnes Apple Orchard distribution building. So they'd bring in apples, you'd walk in, and oh my gosh, the smell of bags and bags of McIntosh and Delicious and all kinds of apples here. Today it's Britannia Spoon Company, now Westbrook Lobster, but the memories of this old building are still fresh. So at the Barnes building, it's now Westbrook Lobster, used to be Britannia Spoon Company. Just behind it is the Quinnipiac River. Now there was a dam here and a waterfall. It was beautiful. You can still access the Quinnipiac River here. And when we were kids, we would go down here, crawl down into the Quinnipiac River, follow the river, and come out behind Grossman's. And we would catch crawdads, crayfish, frogs, do a little fishing. It was a wonderful, wonderful childhood here in Galesville in Wallingford. For years, this was Grossman's. Grossman's was a precursor of Lowe's and Home Depot. They sold lumber, hardware. So Grossman's was my go-to place for all of my home projects. Grossman's closed down, I guess, everywhere. And then it was abandoned for a while. Then it became a roller skating rink, Wallingford Skate or something. I don't remember the name. I'm sure some of you will remember what the name of the place was. But for years, you could roller skate here. And then it became a church of some sort, one of those born again sort of churchy things. And then now it's, I don't know, I think it's part of the storage for the concrete company across the street. You know, like landlines and dial telephones, today's generation isn't going to remember or know much about when the circus would come to town. So every year, right around this time of the year, late summer, the Coleman brothers or some similar group would set up next to Stars, and the fields over here, which is now occupied by Yale Plaza, over there is Yale Plaza, and Town Fair Tire is here, but that whole field over here would be occupied with the circus. And there'd be rides and games, and some years there was a big top. I remember early on, they would actually have a sideshow and, you know, classic circus. And no more. The days of the big tent and the Coleman Brothers Circus seems to have passed. Legend has it that Babe Ruth had an accident right here in Wallingford. That's right, on this little train bridge, narrow bridge in Wallingford, not far from Tracy. And legend is that after his accident, I guess he recovered and continued on and played a game in Boston that night. Well, any town that you grow up in probably has its own stories and legends. Wallingford has its legends as well. One of those occurred here at Tyler Mill. So Tyler Mill Preserve is a beautiful nature preserve. So this is a great place to come for a walk, and the people who love this place jealously guard it. So the main road here is closed. You can't get out to Woodhouse Avenue anymore. There's a chain link fence there. But back in the day, you'd be able to drive through here. And the legend of Tyler Mill began when Wallingford got infected with a motorcycle gang called the Slumlords. And I'm not sure if the Slumlords came from Meriden or if they were a Wallingford invention. But apparently, one night, they had a party here at Tyler Mill. And they parked their motorcycles and lit a fire. And I guess some unsuspecting high school kids, girls as I understand, were attacked by them, raped, or at least claimed to be raped. And of course, the story got embellished beyond anything about torture, and the legend took on, and Tyler Mill took on the proportions of like Auschwitz or Birkenau or Dachau. So what happened here was terrible, but it was never like as embellished as the legend became. So for many years, when somebody said Tyler Mill, I would flinch and, oh my God, what a place. Well, that most people don't even know that, don't even remember that. And like I said, Tyler Mill is gorgeous, fantastic place, a true Wallingford gem, jealously guarded by nature lovers, and it's a great place to visit. Back in the 1940s, 50s, I don't know exactly when, but the Bacchus Company was headquartered here in Wallingford. I think this was the Bacchus headquarters office. Bacchus Street, of course. Where we are on Ward Street? Behind me is where the Bacchus factory was. Well, factory, assembly. There were little shacks scattered throughout this area, and dozens of them. They were separated because they were making fireworks, sparklers. I think they made the little red caps that you'd use in the cap gun with the black powder inside. And this was world famous, I guess. They had a global market for their fireworks. I used to be able to go to the store and buy local Bacchus fireworks at the local corner shop. Well, it burned down several times. Thankfully, the buildings were separated, so the entire complex didn't burn down at any one time, as I understand. The family eventually sold it off, and today it's a residential area. Kind of a beautiful, beautiful community. Sam Papali with Sam's Flower Shop here on Colony Road. This is where you would come to get your Christmas tree. So Sam had a collection of Christmas trees, all different types. And this is where our family would usually come to get those. They had them all laid out here. Today it's kind of abandoned, maybe more than kind of. I sometimes wish that the property would be sold to the town so they could widen the road here and not have it just narrow into a single lane for just a short while. Yeah, this is Sam's. So welcome to the Wallingford landfill, sanitation area, dump. This is the town dump. That's how I still refer to it and think of it, as the town dump. But nowadays, the mountains of trash are covered with solar panels, which is a good thing, right? It's a very good thing. I'm not sure who makes money from the solar energy. Somebody does, I'm sure. But for years and years, you would come here, you would take your car, you'd drive up the hill of trash. There'd be tractors and bulldozers pushing the trash around, burying it here in the trash dump. Very few of you know that this used to be an airport. Yep, When I first came to Wallingford, 1965 or so, and I came here, you know, with my family. My dad would take take the trash to the dump, and because Wallingford didn't have municipal trash collection, still doesn't, and we would drop our trash off here, and I would see derelict aircraft pushed to the side, old chassis, old aircraft. So yeah, this used to be an airport right here. Very few people know that. So yeah, this is the Wallingford landfill, town dump, now covered in solar panels. Now, there were two stores in Wallingford, two department stores anyway, and one of them was Barker's. So I remember going into Barker's. You go in the main door, you aim to the right, and there's the electronic section, stereos, and that's where I saw my first audio cassette recorder. Yep, right here in Barker's. Long gone. You had Barker's and Stars, and depending upon what you wanted, yeah, they were both good. And then, of course, there was Stars department store. Old Wallingford people remember Stars. There was only two stores, two department stores in Wallingford, Barker's and Stars. We used to come here shopping for whatever before there was a Caldor or a Walmart or a Kmart or any of the other places. So we would come here regularly to Stars. And I remember I was a little kid, and I remember going in and just loving the smell of popcorn. So they had fresh popcorn in the Stars department store. I still remember that. So if you were around in the mid-1970s, I got back to Wallingford around 1976 or so. This is, I believe, where the Pumpernickel Pub was here at Caldor Plaza. Yeah, so you'd stop at Caldor because their expression, you'll never not find it at Caldor, and then on to the Pumpernickel Pub. That was a great time. The beautiful Quinnipiac River. So we're on Hall Avenue, and there's a spillway here where the Quinnipiac is beautiful. And Mary Mashinsky was responsible for getting a fish ladder put in. So the environment here is beautiful now. But in the 1960s, just upstream, there was White Way, or what still is, White Way Laundry. And they were a polluter. They aren't anymore, but they were back then. And they would discharge their washing machines, I guess, right into the Quinnipiac River. Well, the moving water here would create suds. And there was so much foam and suds here that it would sometimes rise up higher than the bridge. Yeah, I'm standing on this Hall Avenue bridge, and it would actually blow across the bridge, and I remember having to turn on windshield wipers because the suds and the foam was so bad here. Man, it's all cleaned up now. It's beautiful. Well, Community Lake was once huge. It was a big lake. Across the lake, there was a boathouse, and that's where Choate would have their crewing teams, and you'd see them out on the lake doing their rowing and crewing, and it was wonderful. When the dam broke and the entire area was flooded, of course, Community Lake drained, and it was just the Quinnipiac River for the longest time. It was never restored, and the reason was because there was concern about pollution, about the sediment in the community lake would have been toxic. So I recall there being machinery out here, and they did dredge it and pull up some and open it up so that there's at least a little bit of a lake here. But the big community lake is long gone. Now, while Community Lake is gone, what remains is beautiful. It's been restored, not to its former glory, but of course now we have the Wallingford Linear Trail alongside the Quinnipiac River. And what a beautiful asset this is for the town. What a great thing to be able to come out here on a beautiful summer morning and experience nature alongside the Quinnipiac River and the somewhat restored Community Lake. So when I was like 16, 15 years old, probably lied about my age, got a job here at Gaylord as a busboy. We'd work in the kitchen. And I believe we'd arrive in this building and go in a little door right there, and that would lead to a tunnel. And you'd go in the tunnel in order to get all the way over to the kitchen, which is over that way. The whole complex was riddled with tunnels. It was really quite amazing. Some of the tunnels were brand new, like the one leading to Lyman was huge and just echoey as heck. And the older tunnels were made out of rubble, and you could swear that they were full of rats. They weren't, but it felt like they might have been. You'd walk through these old tunnels in order to get to Wheeler or Burgess or Tuttle. I remember, I think in Tuttle, there was some permanent residents. They had their own room with oil paintings up. I remember Mr. Barron was one of the residents here. He's always in his bed, and I'd come in and deliver the tray of food, you know, as a 16-year-old kid, you know, looking around. He'd just be lying there in the bed. Really, really remarkable. And what memories of Gaylord Hospital. You know, you used to drive up East Center Street, and to the left, if you're driving up the hill, you'd see the Silver Pond. It was beautiful. I don't know if the Carabettas bought the property and didn't maintain it, or if it belongs to the town, or who's responsible for the pond that used to be here. I wish somebody would clean it up, get rid of the chain link rusted fence, and make the beautiful Silver Pond visible again. Wouldn't that be nice? I wonder how many people remember this was the location of the Wallingford Police Department. Don't ask me how I know, but this is where you would come if you needed to deal with the Wallingford police. You could park in here or somewhere, and this was the entrance to the Wallingford Police Department. In my day, the chief of police was a guy by the name of Captain or Lieutenant Bevan, as I recall. and you'd go into the Wallingford Police Department, and they were downstairs here at 350 Center Street. Wallingford Dutton Park has a memorial to Vietnam. And while I'm a Vietnam era veteran, and I was in Vietnam briefly at a temporary duty, but it's wonderful that there's a memorial here. So what is now Staples Plaza, they call it Staples Plaza, was a bit seedy back in the 70s, late 60s, I guess. But there's lots of different tenants that's been here through the years. So there was a movie theater here, and the movie theater, which I think was right over there, I think the building is now demolished, but there was in the 1968 or so, 67, I don't know, there was a teen club here, and they had bands playing. Battle of the Bands was a big deal, and you can go in there, you could barely breathe because the place was just full of smoke. Oh my gosh. So yeah, what is now Staples Plaza, which is kind of nice. But the place that I remember that's been here like forever is Napoli Pizza. Oh my gosh. They've expanded quite a bit, but it used to be a little hole in the wall and the best pizza in town. So you had arrived in Wallingford via the Wilbur-Cross Merritt Parkway and pass by the sign for the Oakdale and arrive here and drive past Masonic. And old-time Wallingford people will remember right here, this was where the dairy farm was. And oh my God, as a little kid in the back seat of the car driving past this, did it smell the cows, it was just, there was a pen here, I think it was barbed wire or a split rail fence, but there was full of cows. So this was all cows, and they were just living in muck. And God, did it stink to high heaven. I think we understood that what happened was the Masonic people would use the dairy farm, you know, as a food source for their people. And it was here for the longest time until finally they replaced it. And of course, T-Bowl was close to Stars, right in front, in fact. T-Bowl was one of two bowling alleys in Wallingford. We also had Colony Lanes. I'll show you that in a little while. But Saturday night at T-Bowl was the Magic Pin Bowling, where they would put up black lights, ultraviolet lights. and have fluorescent paint on the bowling pins. And if you got a colored 10 pin, oh, you could win $20 if you got a strike. It was a lot of fun at T-Bowl. I remember it well. You know how certain songs evoke memories? Yeah, I bet you do. I bet you there are songs that you hear and memories come flooding back to you. Well, anytime I hear the Four Seasons song, Let's Hang On, you know, let's hang on to what we got. Don't let go, girl, we got that song. I think of Connolly Lanes because this is where we would come from 7th grade, Moran Junior High School or middle school. And there was a bowling league. And after school, we could get on a bus. It would take us to Colony Lanes and bowl. Colony Lanes is now closed. I don't know what it's going to become. It's been sort of in this terrible derelict state for many years now, but I still have the memories. Yeah, here is American Cyanamid, the chemical plant. So it's now gone, and it's replaced by another chemical company, I think Alnex or something. But anyway, American Cyanamid was here, and boy, did they stink up the environment. It smelled pretty bad when they were in production. So they had a lot of releases going out into the environment. And to make matters worse or better, depending upon your point of view, just down the road, that's where the trash to energy plant was. So we used to have an incinerator in Wallingford, and we would burn our trash and produce energy. And that energy would produce steam. And there was a steam pipe that went from that plant over to American Cyanamid, and American Cyanamid was buying the energy to produce pollution. So we had the smell of the trash to energy plant, followed by the smell of American Cyanamid releasing, I don't know, toxic chemicals into the air. It's gone. I'd like to introduce you to Chuck's TV. That's where Chuck's TV was, and I worked there for years. In high school, I worked there anyway. And we always had problems with the home bank, which is the neighbor. And this is their parking lot. This is the home bank. So the home bank is now the Wallingford shelter. But so the Quinnipiac Street stores here have been here forever. And where it says recollection, I believe that's where Chuck's TV was for a while. Yeah, historic Wallingford with the Wallingford train station, built in 1871. So now it's a relic and a bit of a controversy because the town council can't figure out what to do with it. Got lots of ideas, but they have a hard time executing any ideas, I'm afraid. Yeah, the historic Wallingford train station has some very special memories for me. So in 1971, I believe it was. I came to Wallingford train station, and the military, the Air Force, had bought me a ticket. And this is how I would travel to New Haven. From right about here, I would take the train to join the service. Well, I don't think they do that anymore. But it was like, like an old World War II movie. Of course, there was no steam coming out of the train. It wasn't that old. But this is where I would start my adult adventure, leading to 5 years living in Europe. So, yeah, this has special memories for me. Wallingford train station. This is really a cool place. This is where the Wilkinson Theater was located. I remember I saw A Hard Day's Night from the Beatles movie here at the Wilkinson Theater. The theater was torn down to make room for a parking lot. Well, I remember being kind of happy, impressed. After the Wilkinson Theater was gone, many years later, a new theater was built, a movie theater, right here. That was a Wallingford Cinema. I don't remember exactly what its formal name was, but it was second-run B movies, and it was pretty popular. It was the place to go to see your latest flick. Well, the classic historical Wallingford Cemetery on Central Street is right here. It's a historic cemetery because I think there's some founders of Wallingford that may be buried here. Wallingford was founded in 1670. Lyman Hall, the signer of the Declaration of Independence, is here. My beef with the cemetery is this horrible wall. I wish we would tear down this wall. Mr. Gorbachev, tear down this wall and replace it with an iron fence. Wouldn't that be nice? The black wrought iron classic fence. Be beautiful. So as visitors would drive through Wallingford, you could see the history right there. You know, it's a pretty popular place. People are dying to get in there. Well, this little store here in Center Street, this is where Case Electronics was for a few years, for many years actually. Today it's there's a bodega over here and a little grocery store and another little shop over here, bakery. It's not New York bakery, but it's good. You know, maybe on Sunday morning after church, there's a church right there, you might be in the area and have a hankering for some baked goods. And what a wonderful odor in the air when you would drive by New York Bakery. That was New York Bakery. Oh my gosh, that's where you could get your fresh bread, donuts, all sorts of pastries. It was wonderful. That was the tradition. After church or Sunday morning, you know, the Wallingford Town Hall used to be the high school in Wallingford. I think it was either Robert Early or Lyman Hall, but this was the high school. Today it's the Wallingford Town Hall. So historic Wallingford is a beautiful place. We're coming up here on the parade ground. Now, the parade ground is a kind of historic area where early settlers would assemble. Today, of course, there's buildings here, residences, offices, and a big church on the corner. Say right around 1965, 64. First time I swam at community pool, it wasn't so much a community pool as a swimming hole. Brown water, dirty, there was no filtration system. And there was a diving board, which was really cool. You know, there was no safety back then. And you would just dive in, and I remember coming up covered with like dirt and mucus, and it was kind of disgusting. A few years later, I don't know, maybe a decade later, they put in a filtration system. And there was a big filter, big brown metal cylinder, I remember, right here by the road, a big building. And that cleaned the water. But the pond, or I should say the pool, the so-called pool, again, wasn't so much a pool as it was a paved pond, right? They drained it, dammed it up, paved it, and put in asphalt and paved the bottom with asphalt. And that was great for a while, for another, I don't know, 10 years. Somebody knows the actual history here. But then I'm going to say around 85, 90 or so, there was a major renovation, and they poured concrete and put in a lane, swing lane. So there was an adult side and there was a zero entry kid side, but it had so much water and you couldn't go in the center, weren't allowed. So it was a bit wasteful. So then, of course, it fell into disrepair for somebody will know how long, a decade or so. And the town council didn't want to have it fixed, and then did want to have it fixed, and then didn't want to have it fixed. And eventually they let out a contract, apparently, to Batten Construction Company to repair the pool, put in a new pool. So now we're going to have a concrete pool, a bona fide swimming pool, as well as a splash pad and a new lockers, and it's going to be the Wallingford Water Park. I do hope that unlike when it was a paved pond, it's just not occupied with non-Wallingford residents, and you couldn't even get in here. It was sometimes it was a bit difficult because people from other towns would use it as a free babysitting place, and little kids would be running around with diapers. I remember diapers floating in the pool. It was pretty bad, right? So hopefully there's a little more security and taken better care of. Can't wait for it to open next year. Should be nice.